Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We are the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. With me tonight, as always, my very good friend, Drew Crawley. What's up, Drew?
Howdy, sir. Just another beautiful hot day in Kentucky. So
Yeah.
it's Sunday, which means I'm recovering from a weekend of poor decision making and had a lot of chores to do today. So laundry, mow the grass, do the dishes, get the
Yeah.
house ready, press all the shirts for the week. You
Yeah.
know the drill.
Yeah. I do. I don't press my own shirts though, man. I go to the dry cleaner.
There you go.
It's just that's not my jam. And it's not Cindy's either.
I
But
understand.
we were talking a little bit earlier today. You're going back in the studio later this week.
Yes, hopefully finish this record. I'm headed up there as of this recording this coming Thursday, Friday, and then be back Saturday. We're
Mhm.
pushing the last song through, and then it's all down to final mixing. So
Yeah.
hopefully get it all done pretty quick here.
Yeah. So we'll have a new album out sometime this fall.
Sometime November is the goal. Hopefully right
Awesome.
before the Mariah takes over the radio for 60 consecutive days.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that wonderful laugh and voice you hear there is our good friend Mr. Austin Huff. Austin, how are you, buddy?
Good. I never iron my shirts either, so
You're on the radio.
to be cleared.
You don't even have to wear a shirt, right? Or you just wear
Honestly,
like a concert T-shirt or something, right?
or pants, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's theater of the mind, and most people imagine me with clothes on, so I'm good there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, speaking as a sometimes listener and a longtime friend of yours, I always think of you fully clothed. So, all right.
I appreciate that. Honestly, Kevin, that's the thing, and I think the strongest thing about our friendship, honestly.
All right. Well, we're going to get into some fun stuff with Austin. We're going to be drinking some whiskey from the appropriately named tonight, Still Austin, which I don't believe he has any ownership in or any influence over. But
no, but I actually just heard about it this weekend. I was at a liquor store with my buddies, and I didn't see what you had sent me. I saw that the package arrived, but I didn't see what exactly it was that you sent me. And so I took a photo. I saw this bottle of Still Austin at the liquor store this weekend, and I was like, "Oh, this is funny. That's because it's my name,
Yeah.
And then I come home and I'm like, "What am I sipping tonight?" And I was like, "No joke." I was I literally just took a photo with this, so I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, the Lord works in mysterious ways, Austin.
Really, truly does, and I think this is what they're referencing when that that verse.
Yes. Well, anyway, we're going to get into a whole lot more with Austin in just a few minutes. Before we do that, we are going to tell you about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart is a collection of friends who make content for the whiskey and bourbon enthusiast. We have shows like Distiller's Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. They interview distillers from across the country and around the world, telling you about all their neat tricks of the trade in distillation. If you want to know more about how what's in your bottle got there, this is the show for you. Alan also does a show called One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. That's where distillers, both professional and illicit, will issue questions to Alan, and Alan will post Facebook or YouTube responses to those questions about anything to do with distillation, grains, fermentation, you name it. Alan can tell them about it. We also have My Whiskey Den with Pat and Mike and Mitch every Monday night. My Whiskey Den, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central. My Whiskey Den is where craft whiskey is king. Come hang out in the chat. It is always a lot of fun. I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about where you can find our show.
All right. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification to find out when new episodes come out, which is every Wednesdays on all of your streaming services everywhere. Apple, Spotify, whatever other ones there are, and the YouTube where you can watch the live recording itself.
Thanks, Mike. We always appreciate your contribution to our show. And without further ado, we're going to drink a little whiskey. First thing we're going to drink is this Still Austin straight oated bourbon. It is white corn, oats, and barley. It's at least 3 years old, and it weighs in at 109 proof. And still Austin is a distillery, not surprisingly, in Austin, Texas. Our friend Nancy Fraley is the master blender for them, and so she does a lot of work with that distillery. And I've been able to try maybe 3 or 4 different things of theirs, and everything I've had is really cool, really fantastic. So we'll start sipping on this a little bit, and while we're doing it, Austin, you and I share the fate of being Titans fans.
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse, honestly. More so a curse, not much gift there.
Yeah,
At least in the last 8 games, yeah.
The gift is probably what your Korked Bats site is known for, being the #1 Derrick Henry website on the internet, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah. It is. Yeah, the #1 Derrick Henry fan site on the internet, and that is solely. I kind of gave us that nickname just because I love Derrick Henry and he's so good, and I like to make content about him. Yep. And so I figured there's no one else on the internet that's going to make that claim. So I said, let's just take it, kind of like Derrick does, take it and run with it.
Take it and run with it and knock people over.
Okay. Right. Anyone who tries to get in our way, we're going to knock them over for sure.
You did a great T-shirt a few years ago of Derrick Henry stiff arming. Oh, who was it?
Josh Norman.
Josh Norman, yes. Yeah. That was a Christmas gift for both of my sons that year. So.
Oh, nice, very nice. I love that. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I kind of dove right in to conversation with Austin, but just in way of background, Austin and I met on the site formerly known as Twitter, and I guess 12 years ago.
I don't want to hear that, Kevin. Honestly, I don't need that right now in my life. Hey,
cheers. Anyway, you've gone on to great things. So kind of give everybody a refresher course on Austin Huff 101.
Kevin, the amount that has changed in my life just since we've met has just been. I mean, I feel like every few years it's something new. I've lived in, I think, four different cities since we first met. I lived in Nashville,
right,
where I was raised, and then I moved to Southern California. Then I moved to St. Louis, and now I live currently in Chicago, and I'm just it's just crazy the amount of like the number of different things that we have done, and for the better part of our friendship, I was in sports talk radio for the longest time, and now I am in country music radio, which was a pivot that I don't think anyone has seen. This past weekend, I was with 2 of my best friends from high school. And we just kept bringing it up, like the fact that 1, I'm living in Chicago, and 2, that I'm hosting a country music morning radio show. Like we would have thought for sure I was going to stick in sports and stay in sports somehow. But I'm doing country music, and I love it. It's awesome, and it's such a good genre to be in because the people are so nice, and it is so welcoming, and it's a really cool format, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So you referenced sports. You were the early producer for Steve Gorman's Sports, right?
Yes.
And then worked some other jobs in Nashville, and then got the big call from the man himself out in LA.
Yeah,
right. Jim Rome. Yep. Clones and all that good stuff. And you had to learn all the monikers.
That was wild. That was something I did not ever think would ever happen. In fact, when I applied for it. I got that job strictly because of you, Kevin. Like, you are the only reason I got that job, was because
that's me.
he tweeted something out about looking for a new producer. And I was like working kind of like part-time. I was between radio jobs, basically, as they say. So I was working part-time at 104.5 The Zone in Nashville. And you sent me that tweet, and I was on a vacation. I was on a trip with my wife for our anniversary, and excuse me, very unprofessional right there. You said this, and I was like, should I even apply for this? Because he's got over 1.5 million followers. He's probably getting inundated with resumes and everything. Like, should I even take the time? And Mare was like, I was thinking Mare was going to say, no, let's go back down to the beach, because we were up for like a lunch break. And she was like, no, go ahead. And, there was a marathon of Law and Order SVU on. So she was like, I can get comfortable here for a while. And so I started putting everything together, and I never would have seen that tweet. I followed Rome, but I just wouldn't have seen that tweet had you not have DM'd it to me. And so I did it. And then almost a year to the day later, I flew out to basically Southern California and started working for Rome. It was a long hiring process, but it was life-changing, and it was awesome to work for a guy who's like a titan in the sports talk radio industry. It is. It was really cool.
Yeah. Well, I've always said that you're the most clever person on Twitter, and
that's just because you don't follow enough people. That's all that is.
But so tell everybody. So now you're working the morning show for US 99 in Chicago, 6 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Right?
Yep. Yeah. Show's called Melissa and Austin. My co-host Melissa is she's been a radio staple in Chicago for the better part of 20 years, and they just randomly reached out to me. I'd kind of given up on radio and was going full time on Korked Bats, my website, and trying to grow that. And then they came calling, and I was like, work a morning show in Chicago. I was like, yeah, I'm listening. I'd be interested. And next thing we know, here we are, like a little over 2 years later, and show's going strong, and we're growing and building, and it's a lot of fun every morning.
There's a specific event that's happened in the last year that I want to talk to you about in just a second. But before we do that, let's talk about this Still Austin oated bourbon that we're sipping on. Any thoughts?
I like it. I think it's really good.
Yeah. I was really impressed with this one, especially, Kevin, you and I had talked offline about trying this before, compared or relative to other Texas whiskeys. This one does not have that really dry, tannic, almost sharpness to it. I think the choice of oats is really cool to kind of bring a little bit of a more sweet profile to it, to kind of counteract that oak influence. It's very balanced too, and the color on it is like this really cool deep red. So really, really like this one.
To me, the thing that stands out, the note that stands out to me, it's butterscotch pudding. So put that thought in your head and see what you think.
Well, that's funny. Yeah. I get that now.
Kind of see that. Yeah.
But I think they're very creative in what they're doing there. And this is from their Distillery Reserve series. And our friend Shannon Hood frequents the distillery. And if they post something that I can buy online, I'll do that. She'll pick it up and bring it back to me. But
I think anytime you put Austin in the name of anything, it's going to be awesome. Whether it be Still, Huff, Stone Cold Steve, any of them. Really, they're going to be great. So
Yeah. You make a point that's hard to refute. Jeez. Tell a guy he's the most clever person on Twitter and it goes to his head.
Yeah, at Austin Huff, that's a great Twitter to follow.
Did you name your daughter Austin, and will you name your next child Austin also?
Yeah, everyone's just named Austin in my house. I renamed my wife too. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure Meredith appreciates that. Okay, so to show that you're kind of the most clever person on Twitter, I'll throw this picture up.
Oh my gosh!
And then you can tell the story. First of all, the lady on to our right, while we're looking at that, you're left in the picture, but the lady to your right is Ken Mulkey, who is the head women's basketball coach for LSU. And you tweeted something about that jacket.
Yeah.
So,
and then, like, to say, like, like we talk about, like, all the changes in my life, since we first met, I'd say the number of ridiculous things I've done since we first met, I think is also up there. And it rivals just about anyone. I was sitting at home. No, we were on vacation with my wife's family in Florida, and it was during the March Madness tournament, and it was the women's Sweet 16 was on, and so I'm like flipping between that and the men's tournament, and LSU is playing, and they're just so dominant and so good. Mm-hmm. But the big thing there was Kim Mulkey in this jacket she was wearing on the sidelines, and obviously she's blowing up Twitter, like you can see, like naturally a jacket like that, people are going to just start making jokes on the internet. And so I just tweeted what I thought at the time was just, like a funny joke because of the visual. But I said, if this jacket gets 5,000 likes, I will find this jacket, buy it, and wear it to a Cubs game. Again, not thinking I'm going to get 5,000. Like I was thinking it would do well. I was thinking it like 200, 300 likes or something. But I did not think 5,000. Otherwise, I would have set the number much higher, and I probably should have. And it just starts, it starts popping off, and I'm like, okay, good. Like people are finding the visual of me wearing this at a Cubs game funny. Good. That was kind of like the whole case in point. Well, then, like before I went to bed, it's at 4,000 likes, and I was like, goodness, this is gonna be bad. By the time I woke up the next morning, it was at 9,000 likes, and I was like, you gotta be joking. I think it ultimately ended up getting over 18,000 likes, and wow. I was like, well, I guess I gotta find this jacket now. I wanted to be like, hey guys, I already reached 5,000. You don't have to keep liking it, okay? You don't have to keep going. But so I started that weekend while I was on vacation with Meredith's family. They're loving it. They're cracking up at the idea, and I'm like, well, I guess I got to find this jacket now. And so the internet is such a lovely place for dumb things like this because everyone wants to help out, everyone wants to be a part of it, and which was cool because otherwise, like, had not so many people wanted to be a part of it, it wouldn't have been near as big as it was. Obviously, just with the likes in and of itself, but also with everything that kind of fell into place for this to be as cool as it was. But it started with finding the jacket. I didn't know where to begin looking. I started doing research, like, okay, who fits Kim Mulkey? Like, where does she get it? I found a number of like boutiques in Baton Rouge that like she does some shopping at, and then some people were like sending me like items at like a Hobby Lobby to where I could build my jacket, and like that was like I was like, if I can't buy this jacket, I might have to get some like arts and crafts going, do like full my own Martha Stewart. And so I get the jacket, so I find the person who designed the jacket. I find her Instagram account, 240,000 followers. And I was like, okay, she's a big deal. And I reached out. I said, hey, look, this is really dumb. I kind of explained the whole situation, but I was wondering, like, would it be possible? Like, I want to know if I could buy the jacket or like what. And she responded. She goes, well, the jacket it runs around it's a couture runway jacket. It runs around $4,000. And I was like, I cannot afford that in the least. I was like, I have a budget for like dumb internet pranks, and that is well beyond it. So
wait. Question. So you and your wife sit down to go over the budget each month, and there's a line item for dumb internet pranks.
Right. It's right there. Okay. I was like, all right, well, like the dumb things I'm going to do with Korked Bats. Like,
she's like, mortgage, she gets it. Diapers, groceries, internet pranks. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. She's like, honey, you went $500 over on your dumb internet pranks budget this month. What happened? I was like, well, that was for the, that was the trip to the Braves minor league game that I took.
All right, sorry. Please go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, and so I found but she said it costs around $4,000. She goes, but I might be able to work something out. And so I was like, okay, that's all I needed. Like, she's willing to work with me here. She told me, she goes, I had been sent your tweet multiple times before you had ever even reached out. And no joke, had she not have been so cool, her name was Martha Gottwald with Newburn. Had she not have been so cool, this wouldn't have been near as cool of a thing as it was. And then on top of that, like, so many people came into play. Murphy's Bleachers let me shoot some content before the game up on their like private rooftop deck.
Yeah.
The Cubs got involved, and they were incredibly cool. There's a lot of professional sports teams that, like, if I did this they wouldn't bat an eye at me, like they wouldn't give me the time of day at all. The Cubs not only like reached out, but they were like pitching me with ideas to do and like things like that, like the stuff they wanted to do. They loved it. And I was like, that's cool. Like, the fact that the Cubs are such a cool team and a well-run team made this all the better. Marquee Sports Network, the Cubs broadcast partner, jumped in, and they started doing, they did like a segment on their broadcast about it, and everyone from start to finish was so cool. And then, so sure enough, I found the jacket. Martha mailed it to me. It was a little snug, little tight, but I'm not the biggest guy in the world, so I was able to fit into it. Then we went to the game. And I'm trying to think, like 670 the score, like people like WGN News, they were like picking up the story and like just making it bigger, making it cooler. And then Martha herself, the designer of the jacket, and one of the assistant coaches for LSU women's basketball, they flew up for the game. And so we got to hang out and meet and everything. And yeah, it was, no joke, from start to finish, one of the wildest and most random things I've ever been a part of.
That's fantastic. Oh my goodness.
So ridiculous.
Yes. So how much time was there between, because it was obviously in March when you started the whole thing with the jacket. And
from the day I sent the tweet to the game, I want to say it was like 4 or 5 weeks. It was the Cubs went on like a road trip. The Cubs, it probably would have been sooner, honestly, but the Cubs went on a road trip, so I had to like find when they were back home and on a weekend that we could make it work. And it was, so it was, but like it's also one of those things, like I had to like play into the momentum. I had to like keep the momentum going, because if I did it in like late June or something, it would have died off by then, and people would have forgotten about it. Wouldn't have been loving it. So like I had to, like, the timing of it was like one thing, everyone playing a hand into it was another. There was so much that went into it to make it as cool as it was.
Yeah. Well, it was fabulous, and classic Austin. So classic, absolutely. All right, so we've kind of danced around some of the things that you're involved with. So let's just make sure we get everybody a rundown, because you're into quite a bit. You've done quite a bit in your career, and you're into quite a bit now. So make sure everybody knows where to find you, what you're doing, and especially what Korked Bats is all about.
Yeah, Korked Bats is literally just a dumb sports vlog that me and a couple of other guys, we just create content and try to have fun. We try not to take ourselves or anything that we do too seriously. And I think the people that follow us and truly get us understand that, and that's why they like us. And so that's been a project I've done. In fact, that was how Kevin and I met, was through that. And it's just grown over the years. It took a little bit of a hiatus when I went to work for Rome, but I relaunched it in 2020, which was a perfect year to start up a sports blog because nothing big happened in 2020. But it's been building momentum and been growing ever since, and it's been a lot of fun. And then of course US 99 during the Chicagoland area, or if you have the Odyssey app, you can listen on the Odyssey app wherever. But 6 to 9 every weekday morning. And again, our show is very similar. We don't talk anything serious on that show. Like, we try not to. We try to stay away from negative stories or anything like that. Like, we really want to kind of be that escape and be a break and want you to have fun on your commute or your drive, or if you're just getting dressed in the morning, whatever it may be. Yeah. If you're ironing your shirts, whatever.
Ironing your shirts, yes. Have you started kind of a morning DJ rivalry with Steve Gorman?
Yeah. What the hell is up with that? He's
trying
in Minnesota.
He's trying to be like you. Hey, I'm going to move north and be on a morning show.
Midwest mornings guy. What is he doing? And it's not even just any city, another NFC North rival to the city that I work in.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
What is Jim Rome going to get a morning show in Green Bay?
Yeah. I think he's got Detroit eyes out. So, yeah. And
Rome's kid does go to Wisconsin, and he vacations there frequently now. So, look, if Rome ended up on mornings in Green Bay, I would not be surprised at this point.
Well, I think Joe Dubin's going to end up in Detroit. So.
Yeah. Joe Dubin, he'll be there.
You got. Sorry, that's a Nashville sports media bad joke, but anyway, Gorman, Steve, he texted me in January and said, "Hey, I'm moving to Minneapolis to do a morning show." I thought he was, wait, are you drunk and making bad jokes?
Yeah, that's what that was the thing. He basically told me in the same way, and I was like, okay,
what? Who moves to Minneapolis in January?
Yeah, well, we were talking earlier, how if you would have told my high school friends that I'd be working mornings in Chicago doing country music radio, we'd all be shocked. I think if you told anyone that the drummer of the Black Crowes would be doing morning show in Minneapolis at some point, I think everyone would probably be even more shocked.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So you need to kind of get a little turf war thing going there, and
I really should, honestly.
Yeah.
What gives, dude?
Yeah, he's kind of talked too friendly towards the Vikings too. That's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a real problem. Anyway, all right. So enough of that fun stuff, and be sure to check out everything Austin's got going on. I promise you, if you're on Twitter, you just need to follow Korked Bats on Twitter. It is extremely funny. If you're not on Twitter, then just subscribe to the Korked Bats blog. If you like sports and you like to laugh, you're going to really get a kick out of this because it is funny stuff. And it's not mean-spirited funny. It's just very clever funny. So you'll enjoy it.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to start on this second still Austin. This is the red corn bourbon bottled in bond. It is a mash bill of red corn, rye, and barley. I got this not too long ago, but it's pretty tasty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's definitely more grain forward, which I kind of like. Is this exactly 4 years?
I don't know. I think it's maybe a shade over.
Okay. Yeah, I would just impressed with the way that the grain still comes through. I know that's something Nancy, has talked about wanting to focus on. I would have guessed that this was the higher proof between the two. There's just a little bit more of a sharpness or a bite to it, especially that front palate, that reminded me of ethanol, but it's not.
Yep.
So that's an interesting one.
It's that Texas oil,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's not as dark as the other, I don't think.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
A little bit more of like a copper color.
Yep.
What do y'all think?
Yep. Austin, any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm not when it comes to, I think we talked about this on my last time on the pod was I'm still, relatively new to bourbon. And so, but I love sampling. I love trying new. I like the smoothness of it. Like I feel like it's smoother than a lot of the bourbons that I have. Again, I most of my bar cart is filled with cheaper bourbons, which is probably why. But no, I think it's really, really good.
Yeah. Well, it should inspire you to at least take a trip to Austin, Texas, and make the claim for the name of the city,
right?
And the distillery. So.
Yeah. No. When I was growing up, I told my parents, I was like, because I had a map of the U.S. and I saw that my name was, next to the capital of Texas, and I just assumed, honestly, and I think this still should be the case. I just assumed that made me the boss of Texas,
right?
And so I feel like, I think that can hold up in a court of law pretty easily.
Yeah,
absolutely, as it should. It's its own sovereign republic anyway. They might as well just make you be in charge.
Yeah.
It's between you and Joe Rogan at this point. So, just go for it.
Oh,
maybe you can arm wrestle him for it or something.
Yeah, we'll get in the cage. Do a UFC fight.
How many likes does this tweet have to get for Austin to get in a cage match with Joe Rogan?
If this tweet gets 150,000 likes, then I will fight Joe Rogan in a steel cage match to win over Texas.
All it would take is one retweet from Rogan and it would happen. You know that, right?
that you're not wrong.
Game over.
Honestly. Yeah.
I hope you have good life insurance for your child. I think you can take him. Oh man, that's fun. Just a side note, I got to spend a little time in Austin, Texas earlier this year. Mm-hmm. And one thing I will say is every single, bar or restaurant we went in had this somewhere on their cocktail menu. So they've done a really good job of like participating in the spirits culture there. Tito's is made there in Austin, and a lot of their drinks feature Tito's. And I was thinking, we're going to go down there and everything's going to be a vodka cocktail or a vodka kind of a thing. They have a lot of cocktails around that town, at least in the spots that we were in, that featured still Austin products. So that was really cool to see, kind of a house bourbon for a whole city.
Yeah.
See that culture, embrace it.
Yeah, there are some really good whiskeys out of Texas. There are some that aren't, but there are some that are great. Iron Root is one of my favorites. Still Austin is fantastic. Balcones is I think very good. There are a couple that are kind of big and mega that I don't necessarily care for, and I think people end up trying those early on in experimenting with Texas whiskey, and they get turned off by it. But seek out something from Still Austin. Their distribution is not completely nationwide, but you can see what you can find, and Iron Root would be another that would be well worth your time to locate. But I think this has some really neat toffee notes to it, kind of like a burnt toffee. And I enjoy it. I think it's got a nice complexity to it. I think the two are different, but there's some common threads there too that they may, and maybe if I'm able to sample some more stuff from them, you can find a kind of a common thread, common tasting note in everything that they do. I think a lot of distilleries kind of have that signature note, and then they kind of play around from that. But the label.
While we were,
go ahead.
We were sampling it. I left the price tag on my glass here, and so in case you guys were wondering, I got this glass at Leaper's Fork Distillery in just outside of
Nice. Yes.
$14. So hell of a deal, honestly.
Not bad
if you think about it. So
yeah. Leaper's Fork, they make some good whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
I like them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. So and the artwork on all of Still Austin's bottles is very cool, and so that's another reason to like them. But hey, we're going to talk a little bit about Austin's lifelong love of country music, and kind of where things stand in the genre at the moment. So we talked some about kind of what you did before, a lot of sports talk radio, and then you made the jump cut, to use a football term, the jump cut up to country music DJ in the third largest market in the country?
Yeah, it's the third largest market in size wise, but I think in terms of country music radio, I think it might be the top market, because I'm almost positive LA doesn't have a country station, and New York just flipped their last country station. They had one, and they just flipped it to a throwback hip hop station. So
wow,
Chicago might be the largest country market. It's a very good country market. Something I did not expect when moving up to Chicago. Obviously growing up in Nashville, Nashville's arguably one of the best country music, because it's where country music lives. But Chicago is so strong, and it is. There's so many country fans, and it is. And every artist says that too. I mean, every artist, and I think they're just sucking up to us, but they do. Like, some of them genuinely mean it. They're like, Chicago. My shows in Chicago are unlike anywhere else where we play, and so it is. And I've seen that firsthand just in the 2.5 years that I've been living and working here.
Yeah. So, growing up and in your early adult years, what was country music in your life?
It was, growing up in Nashville, it's everywhere, and you can't really escape it. And it's funny, it's like just the random connections that I have to country music even before taking this job. Like, obviously, like growing up where I grew up, my house, my childhood home was literally right down the street from Trisha Yearwood's house, and Alan Jackson owned a house across the street from our neighborhood. And then I went to I worked in the mall with Russell Dickerson. I was in, my buddy Jeff, who's just in town this past weekend. He used to shoot music videos. He's done music videos for anyone from Chris Jansen to Lady A to he did one with Jake Owen that I'm actually in. I don't know if I want to tell you guys which one, because then you will find it and see me.
We will find it.
Shaking my butt in that music video.
All right.
But it is.
I know what YouTube I'm watching tonight.
But yeah, so it's like my history with country music runs deep, and I think that's just because I grew up in Nashville. Like, it's like kind of hard not to, and it does. It especially the '90s country just takes me back to Opryland, USA in Nashville, the old amusement park, and just so many memories of going to festivals and things like that growing up. It was always kind of a part of my life, and now it is my life basically now.
Yeah. So Drew, what's your country music background? I know the music that you make now is at least somewhat falls in the country music genre, but
sure. Yeah.
Kind of what's your background in country?
Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up in Oklahoma, which has a pretty strong, culture of country music. Toby Keith, Carrie Underwood, Blake and Miranda, all that kind of group, Garth But I did not listen to any of it. You know, we've talked about it on the show before, but I grew up in a very, religious, conservative household. And so we didn't listen to any of that until I was maybe 13, 14 years old, driving around Western Kansas in my grandpa's pickup truck, listening to the Highwaymen records. And that was a game changer for me. Yes, over your shoulder there. So the Highwaymen were kind of my introduction. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. I grew up playing piano, and all through high school, I played in the rodeo Opry bands. And if you're unfamiliar with Opry style things, you get a song and you get a key, and then you get a little page with a bunch of numbers on it. And it means something if you understand how it works. It means nothing if you don't. But it's, old girl from this week is going to sing the song in A flat, and somebody's going to do it next week in F, and you just hand them the same piece of paper, that kind of thing. So I was exposed to all of this 80s and 90s, and sometimes even going back even further, country music through playing it for the first time, sometimes never having heard the song before, and that introduced me to a lot. And then really just have kind of fallen in love, mostly with the storytelling aspect and the songwriting aspect of country music. Austin, I'm sure you can speak to the industry side of things, but that was kind of my journey through that. And then now I try to make at least country adjacent things.
Yeah.
It's mostly emo music on acoustic guitars, so I don't know if that's country, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. With when I was growing up, whenever we would go on like family vacations, I mean, it was Oak Ridge Boys and Statler Brothers on 8-track, and a lot of hee haw on Sunday evenings. And it was not the music that I preferred, but looking back, I'm a little nostalgic about it.
Yeah.
And could probably sing you some Oak Ridge Boys and some Statler Brothers if we got it rolling here. But, and Charlie Rich and Charlie Pride and Conway Twitty and, just the real old school country stuff. And so that's my relationship with country music. And, that I'm not anywhere close to being a country music aficionado, but I know a little bit about it, and I know a little bit about what I don't like about it now, but we'll get in that in a minute. So how do you see country music going? And granted, the stuff that I was talking about is, like the two of you may have heard somebody mention the Statler Brothers in passing at some point, and that's it. But there's a lot of legend around old country music, classic country music. When you're looking at Johnny Cash and all the stories with him, and Porter Wagner and Dolly and all of that. How do you see that? Which may be a little bit, there may be some mythology there, and compare that to how country music has progressed and where it is today.
Well, I feel like my thoughts personally on just the current. One of the things I love about country music is I feel like it can be like 3 or 4 different genres rolled into one. And so I do feel like, and that's kind of like a big, our station in particular is a top 40 country station. So we will play like the top songs that are big on the radio and that are charting and all of that.
Right.
And which is great for listenership, but it can also be a detriment to some, diehard country fans, because they're like, why don't you play this? Why don't you play that? And there is, it's great because with the different genres rolled into one, you've got a segment of country that is very poppy and very new age sounding, which I think is good for the growth of country music, because it will bring people in. It will bring people that never thought they would love country to, hey, I kind of like this song. You're seeing it right now with Morgan Wallen's Last Night, or Luke Combs' cover of Fast Car. Very, just generically pop songs. But if that's like your gateway drug into the addiction of country music, I'm here for it. I'm here for that growth. But at the same time, you've also got, guys like Chris Stapleton, who is a totally different sound, a totally different vibe, and probably a closer tie back to country music of old, country music of past. And then you still you've got artists that are up and coming now that we'll hear their stuff and I'll be like, man, that takes me back to like an era where I grew up, 90s country, where, very twangy sounding, very guitar heavy. And it's just cool because if you listen to country music, if there's something you don't like, give it some time because you will find some country music that you do like. And I think that's just because the genre is so stretched out and it's got different avenues for whatever your particular taste may be.
Yeah. Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think, Austin summed it up pretty well. The progression that I see, from country, what it was maybe, 70s, 80s, 90s to now, there's still kind of a through line of storytelling and the song being the most important thing. You and I get on our soapbox about, read the liner notes. This most famous person's songs were written by way more talented people who will never see the light of day. But there is something beautiful, I think, within that the song is the most important thing. So if the song is good, it's going to find its way out, even if somebody else cuts it that didn't have a hand in writing it. So I think there's some cool aspects to that. As far as where it's going, who knows? I know where I hope it will go and what I hope will stay in the 2020s. But
Drew makes a great point with like the storytelling of country music, because I think that's one area where country music has a stranglehold on all music. I think it is some of the best storytelling comes from country and rather than any other format. And I love the fact, like, for example, like a song like Wait in the Truck by Hardy and Lainey Wilson right now. It has a powerful song. It is a powerful song, and it tells a message that reaches a lot of people. It's a topic that, it's basically about domestic abuse. And it's a topic that, is very touchy and something that maybe a lot of people, it's maybe not, a lot of people will choose not to talk about those type of things. And so to like make a song about it, and not just a song, but a hit song that sounds really good, it to me is so powerful. And that's one area where like country music is still very strong. And like, look, if you're a fan of old school country, you like, I don't like Hardy, I don't like Lainey Wilson, I'm not a big fan of like what this new country. I think it's one of those things where, and I relate it back to being a Titans fan just because it's the closest thing to me. Like I can, like, it's the Tannehill discussion for Titans fans. Like it's like, I don't think people are going to realize how great he was for the organization until he's gone, until years later, years down the road. And I think people will look back fondly. LeBron James in the NBA. I feel like people aren't going to appreciate him for who he is and everything he's accomplished on the court until years later. Same thing with country music today. I think people will look back at this time and be like, man, yeah, there were some really good songs. And like, you'll be like, yeah, like Wait in the Truck by Hardy and Lainey Wilson. Like that was a truly powerful song that really told a story. And like, we'll complain 10, 20 years down the road, be like, why aren't songs today like songs like that? And it's just kind of secular. SNL cast members, like, SNL was always better back in the day, like it's the same thing. So, but I think country music is in a good spot right now.
Yeah. So recently there have been a couple of controversies within country music. One was with Jason Aldean and his song "Try That in a Small Town." and then the other was Tyler Childers' new song, and I guess more so the video that came out with it. So let's start with the Jason Aldean song. I know that some places banned the song. I don't know, Austin, what was US 99's official stance on it?
We've never like banned any song. Like Jason Aldean still plays on US 99. Now, I mean, my personal opinions, I think it's not a great sounding song. It's kind of cheesy and all of that. That just from the sound alone. But yeah, no, it's still like, it's not, and it's one of those things where I think because it's gotten so much backlash, you're getting more people to request it, that probably wouldn't normally ever request a Jason Aldean song. But it is, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I assume how I feel about it will be coming up next. So I feel like Jason Aldean is one of those guys who loves to stir the pot, and I feel like there's nothing wrong with stirring the pot, but like when you try to do it, like he didn't have to. There's like I'm always like kind of like, look, you don't have to stir the pot. You don't have to come out with a song that is going to invoke some feelings in people. You're doing it for a reason. You're doing it to do whatever, whether or not whether I agree with it or not. Honestly, like whether I agree, I just think there's too much pot stirring in the days today. Like I always like take a step back and be like, will this make things better for people? Will it make people better? We all know there's so much division in America right now, where it's like, will this bring people together? And if it doesn't, then I'm like, then why do it? But there's other people that are like, there's a lot of prideful people in the world that are, screw them, I'm doing it because this is, what I believe in and what I stand for. And it's like, that's fine. That's fine. And I think you should feel very strongly about whatever it is you believe, or however whether you vote or how you live, whatever, feel very strongly about that. But at the same time, know that that's not everyone's viewpoint. And I would love to see more people kind of come together rather than to create art that they know is going to push people further away or, bring your own fans in closer. So that's kind of like my whole stance on it. I've never really been a Jason Aldean fan before this all came down. And so I've never, if it was like an artist that I truly liked, then it may have hit me differently, but I don't, I just think I don't like when there's controversy, because I just don't like, kind of like I said, like on our show, like we don't talk about anything controversial and we try and steer away from it. And there's no exception here. So
yeah. Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one, and I'm going to attempt to not be incredibly sassy tonight, but we're on show number 2 and bourbon number 2 of show number 2. So I'll just caveat that with this. But it's interesting. The Tyler Childers controversy, which we'll get into, was kind of sparked by the music video, and this Jason Aldean song in particular also had a music video that even kind of doubled down on some of the things that people were turning a weird ear to. Ferguson riots in particular were featured heavily, and it was sort of perceived to be this dog whistle of racism, right? Like that was kind of the point. And Jason Aldean has made no bones, his wife too, about kind of where they stand politically. And so it seems to me that this is an attempt to kind of identify with a particular fan base and a particular political leaning, specifically around the ideas of race and, white Christian nationalism and all that goes on with that. And I don't want to make too big of a thing of it, but this was a pretty drastic, I think, demonstration of that mentality, and of that way of like seeing the world. And, kind of to Austin's point about, will this make anything better? Just my side of things as someone who gets a lot of requests in bars, hey, can you cover this song? Can you play this song? For the same reason I don't cover Morgan Wallen, because I think he's kind of a racist dipshit, to be nice about it. This is another one of those things where I'm like, okay, and it's not that people can't grow. It's not that, love and higher ideals aren't available to people and they could grow and learn from these things, but there's just better alternatives out there. And when you see someone going in a way that promotes kind of hate or division or any of that, I'm like, I'm good. There's the Chris Stapletons of the world. There's the Tyler Childers of the world. There's people that are being inclusive and loving and promoting good things in their music. And if you're going to do that stuff with it, there's too much other good stuff out there for me to waste my time on that crap. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally just like it's opening the door for if you're from a small town, let's fight. And what's funny is like Jason Aldean has never grown up in a small town. He grew up
in Macon,
city
Georgia,
of 180,000 people, and then he moved to Nashville, which is much bigger. So I love small towns. I love, my grandma grew up in a small rural Pennsylvania town that we would visit every summer. I have friends from all over Missouri, all over Tennessee, that, all small towns. And I love them. What I don't understand is like hey, if anything goes wrong here, we're going to fight you. We're going to shoot you. We're going to do whatever. And like, you're basically inciting that within your fan base, and that doesn't make the world better. It doesn't. And if you like the song, if you think it's a catchy song, that's fine. But it's art that has a deeper meaning behind it, that is not promoting good or unity in any way whatsoever.
I honestly, when it first came out, I saw some news stories about it and really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. And then so on the heels of that, there's kind of the Tyler Childers thing. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is something to look into as far as, what's going on with country music and all this. And so I went back and I watched the video, listened to the song first, and I'm like, okay, well, I kind of get where he's headed with it, that, this kind of stuff doesn't get tolerated in a more rural community. Okay. And, here in Louisville, we were kind of, ground zero for a lot of the riots back in 2020. A lot of the looting and stuff that went on. And honestly, again, not to try to get anything political on it, but that kind of stuff bothered me. Where is law and order here? Why are we allowing this to happen? Why are we allowing people to destroy businesses and destroy public property and set crap on fire? Why is this allowed to go on here? And and then I saw the video, and I understand that the video that's out now has been edited somewhat. But there wasn't a lot of in the video I saw, there wasn't a lot of overt racism in it. But I read a few articles and they can explain to you what the racism is in it. And okay. But my biggest problem with it, this song is 3 years too late. I mean, if this is what you're wanting to write about, it's 3 years too late. And I think Austin may be frozen.
It would appear so.
Yeah. So, well, hopefully he'll catch back up here in a second.
Sure.
But I mean, I don't think the song is all that great, or I don't think it's terrible either.
Sure.
But you know, I agree. I think he's trying to appeal to a certain demographic, and you know, I think for at least in the short term, he was pretty successful with it.
Probably so. Yeah.
Again, this is a song written by other people. It's not written by him.
Right.
And you know, to try to pin him down that, well, you never lived in a small town. I get that, but how many other artists write songs about things that weren't necessarily their life experience?
Their experience. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of the joke, but it's the cowboy cosplay thing.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, yeah, they're putting on a persona and an image for the purpose of selling records. And I don't necessarily think there's anything inherently wrong with that. You know, that's part of the deal. Especially if you're not, you know, a songwriter extraordinaire, you know, enough to sustain a career or whatever the case may be. So I get that. You know, that critique may not be warranted.
Yeah.
So
and you know, as far as Jason Aldean goes, I probably couldn't name you another Jason Aldean song if I had to. So
I don't think most people could.
But you know, that's kind of the state of country music in some regard.
Certainly.
Hey, and Austin's back.
I just really hated your take, so I had to jump off.
I thought that might have been what it was. I don't know how much of my take you heard, but
no, my internet usage. I tried that in a small town, and it was really bad.
Oh, but well, I think that my ultimate take on it was the problem with Jason Aldean's song is it's 3 years too late. What?
Yeah, right. That is another good point too.
If this had come out in the summer of 2020, okay, now you're topical, but you're, you know, the summer of 2023.
Yeah.
What's your point?
Yeah. Jason Aldean does not strike me as the guy who's the most topical guy. He's still, at least based on his fashion choices too. But.
Well, okay.
Yeah, there's still Miss Me jeans and tap out shirts. Go ahead, Austin. Sorry. Oh,
well,
we may have lost him again.
All right, so we may have some editing to do here.
That's okay.
Wait, there he is.
There we go. Sorry, I don't know what the heck is going on with my internet. I think every time I bash him, my internet goes out, so he might have a stranglehold.
Jason Aldean owns the internet.
Yeah.
So all hail Internet King, the king of the interweb, Jason Aldean. Okay, the other side of it, or the other recent thing was with Tyler Childers, and I'll listen to the song and I'm like, wow, this is a gorgeous song, and I'm like, okay, well, why is this controversial? And then you know, read about it, and it's like, oh, okay, it's he's made this beautiful love song about gay coal miners. So first, so any thoughts on the song itself, the message in the video, or how this kind of fits in with country music?
I mean, I'll kind of turn this over to Drew, because to be honest with you, this is the first I'm hearing about it. I'm familiar of Tyler Childers. He doesn't get a ton of radio play just because he's kind of one of those artists like a Zach Bryan, or even like a, I mean, I guess I don't even know if you consider him country, but Noah Khan, like where it's like they've gotten big without the help of radio, and they don't do a lot with radio. So it's kind of, it doesn't necessarily fall on my radar. I love Tyler Childers' music. And so this is the first that I'm actually hearing about the music video, which I will probably now go and watch right after we get off here. But
Yeah.
So Drew, I'll kind of turn it over to you, man.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, beautiful song, first of all.
Yep.
It's rare for Tyler to do love songs. He usually doesn't kind of tackle that. He put out a gospel record last time. And so, it's interesting to hear him kind of come back to that. I love the song as a whole. One thing I think is unique about Tyler is he's kind of the poster child for this Appalachian indie country thing that's going on right now.
Mhm.
You've got, Tyler Hood and Scott Smith and Josiah and the Bonnevilles and all these people from Eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, that are kind of following after him. And so knowing kind of where he's from and some of that culture, I think it's a bold move on his part, because that definitely would not fly, at least culturally where he's from. And so I, kind of applaud him for making that statement. I think more inclusivity in country is a good thing. There's a lot, going on, kind of ties back in with Jason Aldean, but this big, festival that was put on by Jason Isbell and a few others, Joy Oladekin, Maren Morris, back in Nashville a couple years ago, basically because of Brittany Aldean saying dumb things on Twitter. So I think the inclusivity to not just be straight white rural of one political persuasion or another thing is a good thing. More inclusivity is always going to evolve and push the genre. On a very selfish note, I was there the very first night this got played live at Bonnaroo. He debuted this at Bonnaroo, and I was like 4 rows back, having a great moment. And it was an incredibly terrible time getting into the pit for that show. We were fighting with people. There were people jumping barriers, moving gates, arguing with security. It was a nightmare. And so if he's going to piss off anybody that's not down for a gay love story, it's going to be the same little girls I was having arguments with that have only ever heard Feathered Indians and were trying to push past me and Caitlin to get into the pit. So if they're going to leave the fandom over this, good riddance. I won't have to fight you anymore. It'll be a nicer group of people next time I'm trying to get in the pit for Tyler Childers. So anyway, I had to say something funny at the end of it all.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think he is incredibly talented. I think he's an exceptional songwriter. I think the videos, I don't think it's necessary. If we're years ago, when people were, more shy about coming out, then I think it's more of a bold move. I think this feels more like a publicity stunt to me. Now if you're on Jimmy Kimmel show and you come out and say, "Hey, I'm gay," then nobody's gasping in the audience. They're giving you a standing ovation. Now, is that necessarily the case in Eastern Kentucky? Maybe not. But I didn't necessarily see that this was, that taking that approach with the video was, that necessary or that big a deal. I mean, if you're going to make it that way, then write the song that way and go all out with it. But I'm not, you take what you take and you leave what you leave. And I think the song is absolutely fantastic. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous song. But I don't have much use for the video itself.
Yeah.
But I think it shows that country music is a lot different than it has been in the past. That's for sure. But that's certainly not the first country music song that referenced or was supporting homosexuality.
Yeah, there's a lineage of that to an extent. I mean, Willie Nelson had a song in 1986 about it. So
yes,
it is interesting to me, just as a broader conversation. I'd be interested in you guys' thoughts. There does seem to be politics uniquely entwined in country music more than just about any other genre. And if you go back to the Highwaymen and the outlaw country area, they all seem to be fairly left, whereas some of the more mainstream country artists tend to be maybe a little bit more right. So do you guys see that as a through line and anything unique to the genre, or is that just something I'm making up?
No, I mean, I think it's definitely prevalent. I mean, I feel like nowadays it's prevalent in a lot of areas of our life, but yeah, no, country music is no exception. It's yeah, for me, like a guy who just tries to get away from it, you know,
Yep.
I'm just annoyed by it all, left, right, middle. I don't care what side you're on. I don't like when people kind of wrap their identity within the box that they checked on their ballot. Because I think the world is so much more than that. And as we see time and time again on both sides of the aisle, when we put all of our hope and faith in those people, like they tend to let us down. And so, like and really what it is it's pride on both sides of people being like, well, I don't want to admit that I was wrong here, like voting for this person. I don't want to admit I was wrong voting for these people. And put it back to sports, it feels a lot like, the lines of fandom within like sports fans, especially like SEC football, it's very strong, a lot of pride. And if you're an Alabama fan, then Alabama can do no wrong. It's, it's always
right.
Tennessee who sucks, or LSU who, they got lucky or something like that. And we're starting to see those lines blur going into politics. And it's, I as a sports fan, I don't like that because I know how nasty it can get within sports fandom. And so when you bring that to like things like more serious issues like politics, I'm not a huge fan of the way kind of it's all shifted, honestly.
Right. No. If you're an Alabama fan and your team cheats like crazy and gets all these recruits and wins all these games, hey, look at us.
Yeah.
But if it's LSU doing that to you and you're an Alabama fan, well, how'd they get away with that?
Exactly.
It's the same thing in politics. We've got Democrats casting a blind eye to everything that all the Biden corruption stuff and wanting to convict Trump over January 6th. And you've got all the Trump supporters that are wanting to completely ignore the a-hole that Trump is and support Biden. Have a standard. Pick one. Just pick a standard, and then let's move forward. But that's not where we are in a society, and I would just prefer leave your politics out of the music. I mean, you can write about issues, you can write about being free and not have to try to wrap yourself in the flag while you're doing it. And you can write about being free and not have to write about, anything else that you may want to choose to be free about. Okay. Just you can be very prolific and very poignant as a writer about and affect people's lives and move people emotionally and mentally without getting your politics into it.
Yeah, to me, it's like, I'm not gonna, if you want to, I don't ever want to tell anyone how to create their art or how to make their art. So it's like, if you want to do that, okay, fine. Myself personally, I tend to skew away from any art that takes me to that place of political thoughts and feelings, one way or the other. And I'm just not going to consume it. I'm not going to consume your art. If you want to make it, make it by all means. But I'm not going to be in your audience for it. I prefer to the way I view my show, honestly, like I want it to be an escape for people. I want my art and my music to kind of be an escape for me to, and that's not to say, again, to go back to like the Lainey Wilson Hardy song, like that's a song about a tough subject, and that's hard to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to ever tell anyone do this with your art, don't do this. But I can tell you like which art that I'm going to consume and which I'm not. And if you go political with it, odds are I'm not going to consume it, I guess, as regularly as something that wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Drew, anything to add on that?
Nope. I hear where you guys are coming from completely. I just, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. This genre in particular is uniquely suited to be a lot of things, but conveying ideas is kind of what it does. This isn't, not to pick on anybody, but this isn't like White Snake, cocaine and strippers music. This is, it's trying to talk about people's lives, in one way or the other. And so I just think it's a very wide open for interpretation. There's a lot that can be covered subject matter wise in this genre, maybe more than any other. So,
yeah.
And they're, and not just from a topical standpoint, from a musical creativity standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
You look at people like Chris Stapleton or Zach Brown Band, there's a lot of musical talent there. And both instrumentally and vocally, that is just impressive in and of itself. And you layer into that incredible songwriting, that kind of sets the standard. And if you're having to go to something for shock value to make your spot, I think you're kind of missing it.
Yeah. And I do think kind of like going back to what Drew said earlier about, like, I do feel like there's an importance for representation, for people seeing a genre like country music, who, when you think of country music, you think one thing, just a white guy with a guitar, basically. And so when you can, like, I think to like an artist like Morgan Wade, who is, tatted up all over her neck and is a lesbian, and it's like, if someone lives their life that way and wants to be a country artist, you see someone like Morgan Wade, you're like, it's possible for someone like me to do that. And that, I think, is very encouraging. And I think it's important, to get artists, like Breland, for example, is coming up, and he's making almost like we talked about the different genres within country music. He's almost making his own genre within country music, what he calls cross country. And for someone to like see a guy like Breland and be like, man, I love country music, but I don't see anyone like me in the world. Then you see a guy like Breland, you're like, oh, maybe I can do it. You see someone like Morgan Wade, oh, maybe I can do it. That, to me, I do think is important. Again, not to bring it back to sports, but guys, you have to imagine, I did a decade plus in sports. When Linsanity happened, I don't know if you guys saw the Jeremy Lin documentary, but the importance that did for, Chinese basketball players, and seeing like this was the first time I had ever saw someone in the NBA that looked like me. And it gives hope to people. And that, to me, I think is very encouraging and very powerful. And I think it's one area where I think country music has responsibility to hold up, and one where I think country music can get better in, but it's one area that I'm excited to see the direction it's moving.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Austin's made a good point. There's a lot in it. So if you don't like it, or you're like, oh, I like everything but country, spend a little time, explore the different genres and subgenres within it. You'll find something. And then I will refrain from going on my usual Morgan Wallen is a putz.
Yeah, the big we didn't even hit on the biggest controversy in country music this past weekend. Morgan Wallen shaved his mullet, you guys.
Yeah,
Drew, why don't we go to you first on that one?
Horrible haircut. I'm just on team screw that guy, so whatever. Anyway,
well, again, I think that ultimately, I mean, I get it. People are always trying to make headlines and cut through the noise in whatever way they can. But there's a way to do that, and ultimately the way to do that is to be real and to be talented, and work hard. And I think there are plenty of examples of that and that formula working without having to resort to a gimmick or a sideshow.
Yeah.
So, but all right. Well, we'll start wrapping things up here. Austin, first of all, thank you for being with us again.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. And so tell everybody once again where they can find you on social media and on the radio and on the internet and all that good stuff.
Just at Austin Huff on Instagram and Twitter, and then you can find Korked Bats on all the socials: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. It's Korked with a K, and then in the mornings, 6 to 9 a.m. Melissa and Austin. If you have the Odyssey app, if you're out of the Chicagoland area. The best way to find us is on the Odyssey app. Check us out one morning. If you want to check us out if you're not a country fan, and you want to just check out the show, we have a best of podcast where it's no commercials, no music. It's literally just our content breaks that you can check out there. It's just best of Melissa and Austin, and you can find that wherever podcasts are found. So
awesome. Fantastic. Drew, how about you, man?
Yep. I'm on Instagram at drew.crawley63 for kind of up-to-date week-by-week show things. And then if you just want to follow the larger picture, it's drewcrawleymusic.com. We've got live dates coming up through the end of the year. And then keep your eyes out for a record, hopefully in November. And then maybe one more single. We'll see.
All right. Good stuff. Can't wait. As for our show, you can watch this on YouTube. And if you watch this on YouTube, then you will get to see this. Okay, so it's worth the YouTube watch to see Austin in the Kim Mulkey, I don't know, flamingo bad
want to
wallpaper.
Talk about publicity stunts? My goodness,
that's just fantastic. So you can watch us on YouTube. If you want to listen on your favorite podcast platform, you can. As long as that's Apple, Spotify, or Google. We have a Facebook page where we post all of our shows. We have a Facebook group where we will post about the things that we may be drinking that evening and what we may be listening to, what country song pairs with a still Austin oated bourbon. Well, we'll find out pretty soon, I think. So hope you guys enjoy the show. Again, Austin, man, it's so good to catch up with you. And we've got a few weeks before the NFL season kicks off, and we'll spend Sunday afternoons texting about hopefully Titans victories and Derrick Henry dominance. But
hopefully. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Until next time, on behalf of Drew and our wonderful guest and friend Austin Huff, cheers, love, and free bird.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks, everybody.